I bake sourdough, not for the bread. Although I love the bread, I do. I love the bread. But I bake for the dough. I love the way it feels beneath my hands, the way it breathes and moves and grows and retracts. But it starts with the flour. It's soft and fine as talc. When I pour it in a bowl and it plumes, small clouds rising before it settles. And then the water, body temperature, like warm skin. It pools on top of the flour and then it sinks and disappears and everything changes. Then I push my fingers in and the dough resists at first. It's wet and shaggy and it clings to my knuckles and catches under my nails. But then I squeeze it through my fingers and pull it apart and press it back together while it's still rough and unformed, not yet what it's going to be. And then I cover it and I wait. 20 minutes, that's all it takes. When I come back, the dough is different. It's transformed. Before it was tacky, now it's smooth. What was shaggy has relaxed into something more pliable. It changed while I was gone, just from resting, just from time. Now I add a little salt, a small stream of water to carry it in and pour it over the surface, and then you watch it pool into these hollows and then sink into the flesh of the dough. It's like an invitation. I'm asking the dough to change again. So then I'm folding the water and the salt in with my hands and squeezing it through my fingers. And the dough resists a little bit. It tightens and then it breaks apart and gets slick and strange. But I just keep working it and pressing it and folding it and stretching it. And slowly it comes back together. Stronger now, more elastic, more alive. This kneading and pressing and folding and slapping. The texture shifting under my palms. The dough starts to feel like flesh, warm and supple and responsive, yielding when I press into it, springing back when I pull away. I like to gather it in my hands and rotate it slowly and pinch it and push it and pull it, my fingers sinking in and the dough opens for me. I work it until the surface is taut and it can hold its shape until it's ready. And then I cover it again and I wait. For hours sometimes overnight. You just let it rest. But I never stop thinking about it. The anticipation is physical. I'm imagining what's happening under the cloth, the rise, the slow swell, the dough expanding and becoming more of itself, puffing and taking up space. I check on it, I lift the cover, watch it breathe. Is it doubling? Is the surface alive with bubbles? Will it be ready when I come back? Find myself distracted. My mind just drifts to it while I'm doing other things. I'm just wondering and imagining. And the waiting, though, the waiting is its own pleasure. By the time I turn the dough out, yielding under my fingertips, I've already had the experience I came for. Not the bread, the wanting of it. The texture beneath my hands, the slowness, the not yet, the craving for something that doesn't really exist yet, but I already taste it. You know what I'm talking about? This is desire. Literally, this is what wanting feels like. Lust made material. Craving that you can touch. I was talking about making dough, but we could be talking about making love. It's the same thing. And if you've been listening to this series, you might have forgotten. Over the past 5 weeks, we have talked about a lot. We started with the weight, the emotional weight of erectile dysfunction and what it's like to be in that, the isolation, right? Even if you're partnered, Then we got into the mechanic, like what's happening physiologically and why erections sometimes don't do what they used to do and what the body is actually going through. And then we talked about how to have a conversation with yourself, with your partner, with the silence that starts building because you're not talking. Then we talked about what it's like for a partner, the loneliness, the confusion, feeling invisible and untouched. And last week we talked about what sex could be like beyond erection and what's possible when we change our definition of what we think sex is. But we haven't talked about this. We haven't really talked about wanting. Because here's what sometimes happens after ED. You stop letting yourself want. You stop fantasizing, stop anticipating, stop imagining. Sometimes you just shut down a whole part of yourself because wanting something you don't think you can have is just too painful. And nobody tells you that when you do that, when you cut off desire to protect yourself from disappointment, you don't just lose sex. You lose something essential. So this is the final episode in the series, and my job, if I do it correctly, is to conjure your desire to desire in the next 20 minutes. That's my goal. Here's something my favorite therapist, Esther Perel, says. Desire is to own the wanting. Desire is the expression of the sovereign self. Desire points to free will. You can force people to do. You can never force them to desire. It is the ultimate expression of our free identity. The most potent part of that is desire is to own the wanting. Not to act on it, not to get the thing you want, but to own the wanting itself, to feel the craving and know it's yours. When there are ED challenges, sometimes that's what disappears. You stop letting yourself want because wanting leads to trying, and trying leads to failing, and failing leads to shame. So you just shut it down before it even starts. You cut yourself off from craving. You stop letting your mind wander into the erotic. You stop imagining and anticipating and longing. You think you're protecting yourself, but desire is about being alive. It's about craving for experience, for pleasure, for beauty, for connection. It's what pulls you toward things. It's what makes you reach. What makes you feel like there's something worth wanting in the first place. And when you shut down sexual desire, you don't just lose sex, you lose access to the wanting. And a life without wanting is gray. It's bland. It's blah. I mean, think about it. When was the last time you felt genuine anticipation? Not out of obligation or routine, but anticipation, the kind where your body responds before your mind catches up, where you find yourself thinking about something hours before it happens. When was the last time you craved a meal, not just ate because it was time to eat, but actually craved something specific, the texture, the taste, the way it would feel in your mouth? When was the last time you looked forward to seeing someone? You know, that pull toward another person, not because you had plans, but just because you wanted to be near them. When was the last time you wanted anything at all? I have talked to a good amount of people who've been living with ED for a while. And here's one of the things that I noticed. It isn't just that they stopped having sex. It's that they stopped being hungry for anything. They're just going through the motions. Everything is fine, nothing is wrong, but nothing is alive either. The color, drained out somewhere along the way, and they didn't even notice until it was gone. But that's what happens when you cut off desire. You don't just lose the stuff that you're trying to protect yourself from. You forfeit the texture of being alive. That numbness spills out into every area of your life. And there is a definite connection between an appetite for sex and an appetite for life. Now, this doesn't mean that people who aren't having sex aren't living. That's not what I'm saying here. But if sex is something that you enjoy or that has been important to you, there is definitely a connection between longing for sex and connecting in life. That's what I'm saying. And there's a cost for just shutting down desire. And it isn't just sexual. Because I want you to understand that all desires fuel all desires. Does that make sense? So a desire for sex fuels other desires. So the capacity to want is not compartmentalized. You don't have like these separate boxes, one for sexual desire, one for food, one for beauty, one for connection, that all operate independently. They operate interdependently. It's all the same system. So when you crave a meal, you're exercising the same muscle you use to crave sex. And I'm not talking about like your stomach is rumbling and you're just hungry and you'll just eat what's in front of you. I'm talking about experiencing the flavors that come with food as well as the fullness in your belly. That's what I'm talking about. Like when you crave a meal, you're exercising the same muscle that you use when you're craving sex, or when you long for beauty, a piece of music that makes your chest ache, a landscape that stops you mid-stride, a face, a face that you can't stop looking at. It's the same imagination you use to long for touch. All of that is intertwined. Desire is desire. The object of your desire change, but the wanting is the same. And that's why shutting down sexual desire doesn't stay contained. It bleeds. So when you cut off wanting in one area, it starts to shut down everywhere. You might stop anticipating new experiences in general. You might stop feeling pulled toward people. The whole system just starts to go quiet. And again, there are exceptions to this. There are people who may not have sexual longings, but they have very full lives. And for them, cutting them off from something else might give them the same experience. So I'm not at all saying that everybody has to be having sex. I'm talking about if you enjoy sex and you're not having it and you miss it, but you stop letting yourself miss it. If that's you, I'm talking to you. But when you let yourself want in one area, it has a tendency to wake up the other areas. So when you let yourself crave something, I mean really crave it and anticipate it and savor the wanting, you're priming the pump. You're reminding your body what desire feels like, and then that ripples out. So when you let yourself long for beauty or an experience or a connection, when you anticipate something you're looking forward to, a trip, a dinner date, a new pair of shoes, it doesn't matter what it is. But when you let yourself have that, you are exercising a muscle. You are keeping the system alive. And sexual desire, which might feel a little bit scary to approach directly, it starts to wake up alongside that. So the way back to wanting sex might not be through sex at all. It could be through bread. It could be through making bread. Here's something else that's really important. Desire doesn't require another person. It doesn't even require a body that works like it used to. What it does require is imagination, because desire lives in the mind. It's fed by imagination, by memory, by anticipation. It's what happens when you let yourself think about something you want before you have it. So the difference between desire and arousal, we touched on this a little bit at the beginning of the series. Arousal is physical. It happens in the body. We're talking blood flow, nerve response, tissue engorgement, all of that. It can be triggered by touch, by stimulation, by imagery, or, a brush of the skin or whatever. But desire, on the other hand, desire is internal. It starts in the head. It's longing. It's, imagining. And again, it's not that it can't trigger arousal, but the desire itself can be experienced without physical arousal at all. And you can also feel arousal without desire. Like your body can respond to stimulation when your mind is somewhere else. But when you're experiencing erectile dysfunction, and this is true for a lot of people, desire can appear lost because the body isn't doing what it used to do. So there might be an unconscious shift where you just stop letting your mind go there. Stop fantasizing because fantasies, lead to expectations and you just don't want to be disappointed. Or you stop imagining because imagining what's possible makes you want something and you don't want, again, to be disappointed. So the whole system gets shut down. Everything gets turned off. But again, the tragedy is you can't protect yourself from disappointment by refusing to want. All you do is guarantee that you'll feel less alive. Your mind is still capable of desire. Your imagination is just waiting for a spark. The capacity to crave something, to feel an ache for something is still there. You just have to let yourself access it again. ED does not make your erotic imagination disappear. You just stop using it. Stop fantasizing, right? But you still have access to it. Now, at this point, you might be saying, why would I do that? Stacey, why would I do that? Well, because there's pleasure in wanting itself. Not just having, but wanting. I mean, think about some of the most memorable things of your life. They might have been preceded by anticipation. Do you remember anticipating Christmas as a kid? Like the excitement just being so palpable and so percolated that you couldn't even sleep on Christmas Eve because you just couldn't wait to get up. That's what I'm talking about. As of this recording, I'm leaving on vacation tomorrow. And part of the joy is the getting ready, looking forward to it, planning excursions. The trip itself is wonderful, but so is wanting and longing and imagining what might happen. It's kind of like, at the beginning of a relationship, like before you actually have gone there, like before you actually get to kiss them for the first time or hold hands or whatever, there is this energy that you feel about what's possible. Again, the not yet, the almost, just imagining what their lips feel like, like you don't know yet. You're just thinking like, I wonder what it's going to feel like. I wonder what it's going to be like. Sometimes it's like, oh, I can't wait to see them tomorrow. Or you fall asleep and in the morning, you're like waiting on a text message, that has its own deliciousness. Sometimes wanting is not a means to an end. Sometimes it is an experience in itself. And it's available even when there is uncertainty, even when you don't know what's going to happen. You can still have that. You don't need to guarantee that your body is going to do all the things. You don't need to know how it's going to turn out. You can feel the craving, the longing, the anticipation, and that experience can be valuable no matter what comes next. The ache of wanting is not a problem to be solved. It's a sign of aliveness. And when you cut off desire because you can't control the outcome, you're just robbing yourself of wanting. A life without desire is like food with no salt. It's not that you can't taste the spices and all of that, but there's a dimension that's missing. You know what I'm saying? And salt is the thing about salt, just like desire. Salt is not a seasoning. It's a mineral. It is a requirement for your cells to function correctly. And it just so happens to make food taste great too. That's what I'm talking about. It just so happens that salt is also a requirement for good bread. Just saying. So, how do you come back to desire? First, you start by giving yourself permission to want, not permission to act or have, just to want. And that sounds super simple, but if you've been experiencing ED and you've gone months or years of feeling disappointed, the idea of letting yourself want something sexual might feel reckless. It might feel dangerous. It might feel like you're setting yourself up to get hurt. But I'm going to say this, and I'm not trying to be mean. You're already hurting. The absence of wanting is its own wound, though. And it's one that you're inflicting on yourself every day that you refuse to let yourself desire. So I'm inviting you to start small. Start by letting your mind go there again. Let yourself notice your partner's body. Be mesmerized by their eyes. You don't have to act on it. I just want you to notice. I want you to feel the pull towards someone or something and not just shut it down. Let yourself wonder and look and imagine. Let yourself fantasize, not with pressure, not with expectation. Just let your mind wander. And if it wanders into something erotic, let it. And if your body starts to feel tingly or prickly, that's okay. You don't have to do anything about it. All desire fuels desire. When you let yourself crave and you let yourself long, when you let yourself want anything, you're priming the pump. You're exercising the capacity and reminding your body of what it's like to feel alive. Now, let me just circle back to what Esther Perel says. Desire is to own the wanting. I want you to own it. Not wait for it to show up, not hope it returns. Own it, claim it, decide that it's yours. ED is one of those things that make you feel like things are just happening to you, like you lost your sovereignty around your own experience. Reclaiming desire is you taking that back, not taking control of an erection. That could happen, but it might not, and that's okay. But this is about you reclaiming your ability to want. Your imagination is yours. Your capacity to long for something, to ache for something, to feel pulled toward pleasure, that's yours. Nobody can take that away from you. You get to decide that you're someone who wants. And that decision, that ownership, like Esther Perel says, that's the ultimate expression of free will. You can be forced to do things, but you cannot be forced to desire. But you also cannot be prevented from desiring either. Not if you decide to claim it. This is not about positive thinking. I don't want you to be pretending that everything is fine. It's about recognizing that desire is something that you have within you, something that you get to choose. It's part of your authentic expression. In the same way that you might feel disappointed that an erection didn't come, you also get to long. You get to want. That's sovereignty. That's freedom. That's authenticity. That's aliveness. Now, one more thing. If you're in a relationship, this isn't just about you, because that means that your partner might have lost some access to their desire too. Maybe not in the same way, but when one person stops wanting, it affects both people. You know, when touch disappears, when anticipation disappears, when imagination disappears, that's a shared loss. Your partner might have stopped feeling desirable. They might have stopped allowing themselves to want to, because they also don't want to be disappointed. But they need to reclaim their desire too. They need to remember that they're allowed to want, that their longing matters, that they get to crave too. So you get to do this together. You can let yourselves want out loud and tell each other about what you're craving. You can share what's on your mind, fantasies. I mean, the having is wonderful, but the wanting, the wanting together, oh my God, so good. Go make bread. Go make bread. I mean that literally or metaphorically or whatever works, but find something you can want, something you can anticipate, something that lets you feel the craving. Feel the flour between your fingers. Feel the dough resist and then yield and then transform. Wait for it. Wonder about it. Let your mind wander. and then let it spread. Then let it spread. Maybe bread is not your thing. Maybe, but you like to cook or, whatever. Like cook the meal you've been thinking about. Plan the trip. Listen to the music that makes your chest ache. Look at the person you love and let yourself feel the pull. And then, when you're ready, let yourself want them. Let yourself imagine, crave, and long and ache. You get to choose that. You get to decide to be someone who wants. Even now, even with everything that's happened, even with this body that you're still figuring out, it's available to you. That's yours. Own it. So that's the series. 6 episodes. The weight, the mechanic, the conversations, what it's like for partners, sex beyond erections, and now this, reclaiming desire. If you've been with me through all of this, thank you. This is hard stuff to sit with, and you're still here. And here's what I want you to take with you. Erectile dysfunction is real. The loss is real. The grief is real. And also, you're not done. Your body still works just differently. Good sex is still possible, just different than before. Or you still have the capacity to desire and long. You just have to let yourself feel again. So let yourself want something. See what wakes up. Thank you for being here. Ciao.